All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers in tonight's video because, folks, I don't know if you guys have caught on to this. Unless you're a Steelers fan, people hate your draft. I mean, they literally hate your draft. They're like, Jack Sawyer, what in the world? Will Howard in the 6th round? The reason Derek Harmon, people don't even know who Derek Harmon is, by the way. Caleb Johnson's with the it's a backwards move going from Najee Harris to Caleb Johnson. No disrespect, obviously, to Najee Harris or even Caleb Johnson, but I'm just saying, like, the reason people don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers draft has nothing to do with the actual personnel they selected. The reason people hate the Pittsburgh Steelers draft is because they didn't take a quarterback in the 1st round like many expected them to, and we still don't know the situation with Aaron Rodgers. So basically, has nothing to do with the actual draft. I heard this, there was like a athletic article they were doing, and unanimous executives on every team in the AFC, and for Pittsburgh, one of them was like, they're meandering in the wilderness here, and they're probably going to continue to do that unless there's somebody they like, and then they will draft him. Now, folks, we're going to talk about 2 players specifically in today's video, Caleb Johnson and Will Howard, because I think these guys could be huge cornerstones for this franchise moving forward. But I also do just want to say really quickly on the Aaron Rodgers situation, some people like what I'm about to say, some people hate it. I really do think he will be your starting quarterback next season. I really, really do. And I think even for Will Howard's future with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that's by far the best case scenario. And I think, honestly, if you're a really big Will Howard supporter from that draft, from this past year's draft, then you should want a Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers over for Pittsburgh next season. Let's stop worrying about championships for just a month. Let's stop worrying about champions for just 1 month until we know the final Steelers roster. But folks, welcome back to the channel. Obviously, we're talking about Pittsburgh in tonight's video. But before we do, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Steelers fans, our last 2 videos, you guys have given us like over 1,000 likes. I don't even know. You guys did this last year. It's why I have a Justin Fields Steelers jersey sitting right behind me. But if you could try and get this one, folks, to 100 likes, it would mean the absolute world to me. So we'll start it off round 383. Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. And it's funny because this is one of those prospects, like a lot of guys, honestly, like just the state of NFL media, just the state of sports journalism in general. It's in a really bad state right now. But Caleb Johnson was one of these players where if you took him in the 2nd round, if you took him early in the 2nd round, you're getting a stud. You're getting possibly the best running back outside of Ashton Jeanty, right? Because Ashton Jeanty went number 6 to Las Vegas, almost won the Heisman, right? Whether or not you believe Ashton Jeanty's the best running back in the class is neither here nor there. The point just is people viewed Caleb Johnson as RB2 in that draft class. And then when he falls to Pittsburgh in the 3rd round at 83, all of a sudden it became, I don't really know what they're doing, moving off Najee Harris and trying to get Caleb Johnson. It's, if anything, it's moving backwards. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith really praised Caleb after this pick, and he said more than anything else, he might like his explosive potential. And Arthur went on to explain this quote saying, you don't just want 2, 3, 4 yard plays with multiple 3rd and 2s and multiple 3rd and 3s. You want chunk plays. And that's what Caleb Johnson can do for you next season. He's 6'1", 224 pounds, and he broke off 32 runs of 20-plus yards during his college career, and 21 out of those 32 came this past year in 2024. Now, it's funny because Caleb Johnson ran a very modest 4.57 in the 40-yard dash. So like I said, he's weighing in at 224 pounds. So he's got a very physical style of play. Kind of reminds me of Najee Harris and what he gave you in Pittsburgh. But now I have Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren right behind him to just kind of round out this backfield. But one of the best stats, very similar to Najee Harris, is Caleb Johnson's very secure with the football. He finished 2024 without a single fumble, and over his college career at Iowa, he fumbled only 3 times, all right? So he closed out his college career with 29 consecutive games and 500 consecutive touches without a lost fumble. Now, Najee Harris, like I said, very strong track record in that department. He had just 5 fumbles over 4 seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then finally, fun fact, Caleb Johnson logged 21 touchdowns with an 86.5 PFF rushing grade in 2024, while averaging 4.42 yards after contact per attempt. So pretty crazy. He's not necessarily known for his receiving capabilities, but if I had to give you like a statistical estimate, it would probably be between somewhere like 200 or 250 this next season with Pittsburgh. And then finally, really the reason I'm making this video is round 6, 185, Will Howard, quarterback out of Ohio State. So Will Howard's coming off the national championship, set a record with 13 consecutive completions, threw for 231 yards and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. In 2024, he had a 96.3 deep PFF passing grade and a 79.6% adjusted completion rate. Now, here's the thing. He transferred to Ohio State as a 5th-year senior after 4 years at Kansas State. He completed 73% of his passes for 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and only 10 interceptions while at Ohio State. Okay, so he just had a phenomenal season. And he finishes his 5-year college career with just under 10,000 total passing yards and 83 touchdowns. And so I saw, I have this here. Let me, oh shoot. I only have his last name. I think this was a former Steelers quarterback, and I apologize. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I'm sorry. I don't know who this guy is. Batco. He compared Will Howard to Steelers 2022 first rounder Kenny Pickett, and he said this quote, "Both guys, the arm talent was not elite by any stretch, but they had that chip on their shoulder, underdog mentality, and an edge to them and an obsession with football that could be the reason they work out. It's just that Will Howard is a 6th-round pick instead of a 1st-round pick." So that's kind of like how we started this video. Is Kenny Pickett was basically thrown to the wolves 4 games into his college career with Pittsburgh, and obviously it ended up not working out. But Will Howard has completely different expectations being a 6th rounder. And so I know people will say he wasn't like the catalyst to why Ohio State. Like people say you could sub Will Howard with any other quarterback that got drafted, and Ohio State's still winning a championship because of their run game, their offensive line, their 2 wide receivers, and just their defense and just being Ohio State in general. While that's a fair point to make, just in the sense of their offense was that good, Ohio State really was that good last season. You go back to the playoffs, like against Tennessee, he went 24-29 for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the next game against Oregon in the college football quarterfinal, he threw for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks. Against Texas, he had a 73% completion percent, threw for 290 yards and a touchdown. And then in the national championship against my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, honestly, we never really had a chance to win the game. And so he threw for 231 yards, threw for an 81% completion rate, had no interceptions, and just game managed it because as a Notre Dame fan, we're not better than Ohio State. So he didn't have to take over a football game. But without Will Howard, Notre Dame can come back into the game. So my point just is a 6th-round pick. I mean, I don't have high expectations because I want Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins, or, if it's Mason Rudolph, it's Mason Rudolph. I want a veteran QB in front of him for the foreseeable future because I think Will Howard is a gamer. I think he's a gamer, man. And I know Steelers fans feel the same way, but it appears like the rest of the NFL doesn't. So that's my thoughts. That's my opinions. Thank you guys for watching today's rant. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, and give me your thoughts on Caleb Johnson and Will Howard to the Pittsburgh Steelers down below. Peace.